Good evening and welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors regular session for Thursday, April 18, 2019. Just a reminder, recording device will be used during this meeting. We're going to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The wheel's stuck. Okay, we're going to start with public comment. Just a reminder, rules of conduct for the public meeting established by Resolution 2001-08. The time allotted to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. I'll open it up for public comment. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the Township Solicitor for the public hearing to consider and possibly adopt a proposed ordinance amending the code of East Brandywine Township to add a new Chapter 160 titled Fireworks. And we'll start with that one.
Sure. So I had explained this at a prior meeting when the board authorized this. The Pennsylvania fireworks law was amended in 2017. As a result of that, there was also a Commonwealth Court case that declared that a portion of that law was unconstitutional or inappropriately enacted and therefore declared part of it void. We were looking at the township code and realized that you don't have really any standalone regulations that address fireworks. The second-class township code does give you the ability to require permits for display fireworks. So with all of that being said, we thought it was a good idea to codify into your own code the laws and regulations with respect to use of fireworks within the township. Most of this is taken straight from the state law. The definitions are copied from the state law because we don't want the township to have inconsistent definitions from what the state requires. The biggest thing the township will have oversight over is the issuance of permits for display fireworks. So this is a proposed amendment to Chapter 1. It will create a new Chapter 160 in the East Brandywine Code, and it will be the place that people will go when they want to know how they go about using both consumer fireworks and display fireworks within the township. Because it's an ordinance, it had to be advertised. Tonight's hearing was advertised in the Daily Local News on April 10th. We also sent a copy of the ordinance for public inspection to the Law Library and to the Daily Local News.
So what we need to do at this point is adjourn to a public hearing and then conduct a public hearing on it, is that? Yeah. I'll make a motion, we adjourn to a public hearing to consider the addition of a Chapter 160 titled Fireworks to the Borough Code, to the Township Code.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the hearing would be if anybody has any questions on this new proposed amendment, which would create a new Chapter 160 titled Fireworks. The board had reviewed this, I think, generally before you authorized for the public hearing. Mm-hmm. Again, it's straightforward and consistent with state law.
And is there any comment on this hearing for the fireworks?
You need to put into the record the advertisement and all of
Yeah,
those
I mean,
things. Yeah.
It's B1 would be a proof of publication. Tonight's hearing was advertised in the Daily Local on April 10th. B2 is a letter that I sent to the Law Library on April 8th with a certified copy of the ordinance. And B3 is a letter, again, April 8th, that I sent to Daily Local News with a certified copy of the ordinance for public inspection. And Mary, I have a copy of all of those to hand you, so you don't have to ferociously write. So that's it as far as exhibits.
Okay, no participation from the audience?
Sorry.
Going to adjourn the
Yeah,
hearing?
you can, I don't have a problem with you voting at the conclusion of before you even close the hearing, if you want to vote on it
All right.
as part
I'll
of the
make a
hearing.
motion that we adopt the proposed new Chapter 160 titled Fireworks.
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
And while we're in the public hearing stage, do we want to go right into the next one then?
That's fine.
Okay, so the next one, public hearing to consider proposed agricultural security area, ASA, addition to East Brandywine Township, 458 Dilworth Road, tax parcel number 30-2-56.
So the state law has very specific procedures for adding property to the township's agricultural security area. They're rather cumbersome. My colleague Kim Venzi made sure that the township, that we did all of these procedures. So I do want to introduce into the record all the different exhibits that indicate that we did follow the appropriate procedures. The first, there's two different notice requirements that you have to provide. The first one is that we sent a legal notice that was published in the Daily Local on February 27th, indicating that an application had been received and that the township was going to initiate the process to consider adding this property into the ASA area. The second is the properties had to be posted, and that was done on February 27th, 2019. The third one is correspondence that my colleague Kim Benzie sent to the Township's Planning Commission, as well as the Agricultural Security Area Advisory Committee, indicating that the proposal had been submitted to add the property located at 458 Dilworth Road. It contains 18 acres, and the applicant had requested that it be included in the ASA. So that correspondence was sent to both your Planning Commission and the Ag Security Area Committee. The Planning Commission did in fact review this at their meeting on April 3rd. I have the April 3rd Planning Commission minutes have not been approved yet, but Mary was kind enough to send me an excerpt from the draft minutes that indicated that the Planning Commission did review it and did support this application. That would be Board Exhibit 4. Board Exhibit 5 was an advertisement, or proof of publication that we did advertise tonight as a public hearing, and that appeared on April 8th, 2019. Board Exhibit 6 is verification that the property was posted again on April 8th, 2019. And Board Exhibit 7 is correspondence that you received from the Chester County. The Planning Commission also must, the Chester County Planning Commission must also review this, and they did issue a letter and indicated that they have no objection. They find that the proposed addition of this property is consistent with the state law, and that they would have no objection to you adding it to your agricultural security area. So those board exhibits are, basically show that we follow the appropriate procedure. This is done through adoption of a resolution. So we have a resolution for you to add this property to your ASA.
And any questions from the audience on this? Seeing none,
I'll make a motion, we adopt the proposed resolution adding UPI 30-2-56 to the agricultural security area of East Brandywine Township.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Mary, I'm going to hand you the resolution, the ordinance, and the exhibits. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go back on the record and close that public hearing. And we'll go to the minutes of previous meetings for the Board of Supervisors, April 4th, 2019.
Motion that they be approved as submitted.
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer's report.
Thank you. As of April 18th, 2019, the bank account balances are as follows. General fund checking, $648,464.17. General fund investment, $1,056,035.17. State fund bank accounts, $370,542.34. Referendum open space, $2,514,052.17. Open space, $791,983.65. And traffic impact, $1,623,705.19. And there are a total of 122 checks in need of approval for the general fund, 1 for the police capital reserve fund, 9 for the state fund, and 2 for the open space fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a minute to go over the finances and see if they're in order. Anybody have any questions?
Make a motion that we approve the disbursements as requested.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Township Manager's Report. Scott, please.
Thank you. The County of Chester, in conjunction with Penn State Extension Service, is hosting a free home water and septic system workshop for on-lot systems at the county's Public Safety Training Campus, 137 Modena Road in South Coatesville Borough, on Thursday, May the 9th. There'll be 2 sessions, each session that will cover how to manage your well and drinking water supply, how to test your drinking water supply, how to manage your septic system, and the county's well and septic system permit programs, both managed by the Chester County Health Department. Though, as I said, there's 2 sessions offered. Session 1 is held from 1 to 3 p.m. on the 9th, and Session 2 will be 6 to 8 p.m. The first 30 registrants for each session will receive free drinking water test kits, which will include instructions, obviously, on how to use the test kits to test your water. You can register by calling 1-877-345-0691 or visiting the website, and I'm not going to read all that, but more information will be posted on our website next week. I received an email today from the contractor for the Mapleview development that the traffic signal standards or poles specified in the approved land development plan will be delayed 16 to 18 weeks due to flooding of the manufacturing plant in Nebraska. This would mean installation of the traffic signal for Bollinger Road and Horseshoe Pike would occur in November of 2019. I was asked about substituting equipment from another vendor that would reduce the time for delivery and installation until September. I'm still not thrilled with that idea, but they've got to provide information that says whether these are like materials or they're less than the standard that we required. I did also confirm with Bob Hermley, from Pulte last Friday that construction of the intersection roadway improvements are on target to begin once the current school year ends and before the 2019-2020 school year begins, which is the end of August. In an email response this morning, I asked both Pulte and Mapleview parties to determine if another vendor has the traffic signal standards that are required or like material, and if they're both prepared to install the traffic signals prior to the end of the school year, as I was promised. This project is supposed to be coordinated between Pulte and Mapleview, and up until today, I was assured that this was being done. And the last one is a reminder about our annual document shredding and e-waste collection event to be held on Saturday, May 11th at the Coatesville Area School District Complex, 248 Reeseville Road across from Brandywine Hospital. Event will open at 9 a.m. We'll have people lined up at probably 8. And that's approximately the time that both Wiggins and TBS Industries should be arriving to set up. School complex enables us to separate the 2 collection events in order to better manage traffic, because one will be at North Brandywine Middle School, that'll be the e-waste, and the document shredding will be at Reeseville Elementary to the back of the complex. Hopewell Troop 8 scouts and leaders will once again be available to assist with unloading vehicles, and we're looking for other volunteers to assist that day. We'll have an additional shredding vehicle from Wiggins. We've had 2 in the past 5 years. We're going to increase that to 3 this year, and at least 2 box trucks for the e-waste. The Wiggins shredding provided us with a discounted rate because of being previous customers, and for the shredding vehicles, and those are being sponsored by DNB First Bank and ServPro of Southern Chester County. Computer monitors and televisions do have a drop-off fee of between $20 and $60, depending on the type and size of the unit. And you can visit our website for additional information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Luke, for the Assistant Township Manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This evening, I regret to announce the resignation of Ian Plain from the Township's Boundsville Mill and Open Space Committees. Mr. Plain is planning to move away from East Brandywine, actually moving to North Carolina very soon. I would like to thank Mr. Plain for his volunteer services and acknowledge his many contributions to both committees over many years. I'd like to draw attention to the fact that Mr. Plain played a critical role in the construction of the yellow, white, and blue loop trails, totaling almost 2 miles in the Bondsville Mill Historic Park and Nature Trails. He will be missed. I have an update on the Bondsville Mill grants. On April 4th, the township received word that the Chester County Commissioners have generously selected our 2019 Municipal Grant Program Award application for funding. Our application is for an amount not to exceed $190,126 and was to implement the improvements related to the removal of the concrete pad and for garden area improvements. These two improvements are commonly called Phases 1 and 2 in the Bondsville Mill. This board adopted a resolution in support of this application at your February regular session. There is a second grant, this one to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the Community Conservation Partnerships Program, otherwise known as C2P2, and that was due on April 10th. The application was submitted, and this board adopted a resolution in support of the second grant application at your April work session. If awarded, the total cost to the township minus the two grant sources would be 10% of Phases 1 and 2, or $47,500, as discussed at your February regular session. I'm going to bring up a picture here.
More flowers.
All right. The volunteers at Bondsville Mill celebrated a milestone on Monday that was recognized in the Daily Local. They topped out the highest beam on the historic Building C, which was constructed in about 1840. Topping out is a builder tradition referring to the celebration of the installation of the highest piece of the structure on the building. My thanks to these dedicated volunteers for yet another milestone in restoring this piece of Brandywine Township history. Members of staff, including myself, just returned from the Pennsylvania State Association Township Supervisors annual educational conference and trade show in Hershey, which was from Sunday, April 14th through Wednesday, April 17th. I appreciate the board's ongoing support for staff attending these outstanding training and networking opportunities for township staff. And lastly, this evening, I have a follow-up on the Estates at Dowland Forge landscaping plan proposed revision. As a follow-up to the discussion with new community residents from this development at your March regular session, please find attached a consolidated map of the proposed changes to the landscaping plan for this development. This map represents the revisions to the approved plan that is acceptable to both the individual lot owners and D.R. Horton, the home builder. I'd like to take a moment to correct on the record a statement I made about the history of this project. I made this statement at your April work session. I stated that the duplicate trees were the result of an upgraded landscaping plan sold by D.R. Horton. It's more accurate to say that D.R. Horton's base home packages include landscaping that was installed prior to the builder's realization that landscaping was already required as described in the approved land development plan. This resulted in more trees on the lots than required by the plan or anticipated by the residents. My thanks to Jessica Lauren Gross of D.R. Horton for compiling the results of the multiple resident surveys to produce the attached map. The planting of trees that are consistent with the approved plan and not controversial to those residents who have moved into the community has resumed. I understand from the discussion at our April work session that this is my final deliverable on this project, and that the material should now be routed to Pannoni and the Planning Commission for review. Feel free to correct my understanding if that is not accurate.
I think it's accurate. My question is, I looked at the first one, and it looked like there were only 3 trees that were being removed, but the second one has a few more red X's on. Do we have a tally of what's,
Yeah, this is a net gain of trees in the development, but the location of the trees is changing and the species of the trees is changing. On the vast majority of lots, we're talking about the relocation of the approved tree and the approved species within the front yard, but not as shown on the plan. So those would be, if I may be so bold, almost at the level of just field change, slight move of a tree that's shown on the plan within the existing lot and the same species. The other ones, I think, are more significant and therefore should probably be reviewed by the landscape engineer and the planning commission.
and then it's up to Kristen to decide, tell us whether we need to do a plan amendment or whether we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I'm having a hard time understanding what this plan shows. What's the green?
So the green are trees that are in place
Oh,
and will remain in place.
so just, the red is just trees that are completely being eliminated, but you said there's a net gain, so where
There's
is
a
it
net
showing
gain.
new ones?
It varies by lot. There's a total count handwritten in the lower right corner. But I can't give you a lot by lot summary of
Okay.
who's
I
losing
mean, I
and who's
think maybe
gaining.
once Pannoni and the Planning Commission, they can summarize the end result of what these plans show, we can make a determination of how we go about approving that. Or how the board goes about considering approving that is probably a better way to say that, so. we can do that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
And we have no building inspection report this evening, so we're going to move on to,
We have building inspector. We don't have roadmaster.
mine has none this evening for building inspector's report. Oh, they wrote it on a different spot.
Yeah, I just jotted it down.
Isn't that funny? You hand wrote it on mine. All right, so we're not going to go off of my agenda, we'll go off of Supervisor Fisher's. So we are going to do a building inspector's report.
Thank you. You just didn't want to hear me talk. The March 2019 Building Inspector's Activity Report. There were 19 building permits issued, 1 zoning permit issued. Total of 18 use and occupancy permits were issued. 149 inspections were completed. Total fees collected, and for the first time in a long time, no failed inspections. I should note that. Total fees collected, $15,045.93. Well, I think Jeff Cantlin and Frank Milnes rattling these contractors' chains enough should do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have none for the roadmaster's report, and then we're going to go on to Chief for the police department report.
Good evening. The police report for March 2019. The police department recorded 2,903 incidents. We completed 192 investigations. The department had 7 criminal arrests, 1 summary arrest, 2 warrant arrests. They completed no juvenile petitions. We investigated 7 traffic accidents. We issued 170 traffic citations. We issued 70 traffic warnings, and officers logged 10,887 miles of patrol. Training completed for the month. Lieutenant Jeff Yankanich and Officer Kyle Harnish attended the annual accreditation conference in Harrisburg. Officer Maureen Ray attended a precision and tactical driving school. Officer Ryan Kanzanese and Officer Danny Miller attended a law enforcement combative weapons defense and retention training. And Corporal Dan Orris attended the Penn State POSIT program, and that was held in Reading. One other thing I left off my report tonight, and I apologize, is that I've given notice to Lieutenant Jeff Yankanich Corporal Dan Orris and Officer Tanner Smith, that effective May 3rd, they will have completed their one-year probationary period, and that it was my opinion they had done an outstanding job in their positions. And I would just like to ask the Board of Supervisors your consideration to make a recommendation and vote to appoint them, to remove them from probation and appoint them to a non-probationary status. Scott's shaking his head no.
Not if it's Dan Orris. Please tell him I said that. No, they're both very worthy of that. I just have an ongoing joke with Dan. Mostly it's on me.
Pokemon? Would you like a vote tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm on board, so I have no problem with it.
All right, so I'm sorry, I wasn't, it was Dan and who else?
It's going to be Lieutenant Jeffy Kenich, Corporal Dan Orris, and Officer Tanner Smith.
He's staring you down right now, so I would probably,
Don't
why I
worry
worried
about
about
him. I'll take care of it.
I'll move that we take them off probation status.
and I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One
Thank you.
step closer.
Okay, and now we're going to go to the fire department for their company report.
Good evening. Please bear with me because tonight's report is a little bit longer than usual for the fire department, but we have a lot of good things to tell you about. First, I don't know if the Board of Supervisors was aware of it. The police chief and police lieutenant were aware of it, but we have a 6-series documentary filmed at East Brandywine Fire Company by an Italian producer, Marco Del Risi, who has just notified us this past month that our series has been picked up by Amazon Prime. So that's pretty exciting for the township and the fire company that we have a half hour of 6 shows that are going to be shown on Amazon Prime. And Marco was going to be here tonight for me to introduce him, but his full-time job is in Italy, so he's still there. He thought he'd be back. But next month, I hope to be able to introduce Marco to the board. So that's the first good news I have. Second good news I have is that we currently have 4 people in EMT class. We have 4 firefighters starting firefighter 1 class on May the 4th. And last month, we took in 3 new members. So that's all good news for us. I may bring to the board's attention, on Wednesday, April 3rd, we had a significant fire in the township on Bolero Drive. Our fire department we have video, just as the police cruisers do, in the engine. We have video on our officers' helmet cams. The video that we put on social media of that fire has close to 200,000 views. With the 200,000 views, if you will allow me, I condensed it down to just a 5-minute segment that I like to show the Board of Supervisors and make comment as to the interactiveness of the Public Works, the Police Department, and the Fire Department, and as to what we encountered that day. So if you didn't have a chance to see the video, if you don't mind me playing it, it's a
Absolutely.
5-minute. Luke, I'll bring it up for me here. The dispatch has already been made. The fire truck has been en route, and they're getting ready to pull up to Bolero Drive here.
SM service.
I believe that's 104 Bolero. "3:30 in the afternoon is when the call occurred.
You did a 360? I did a 360. The back door's open. It's flowing out the back right now. I tried to shut it. 6-1.
The red truck you see in the front is from the Veterans Hospital Administration.
93-3.
Happen around the hydrant.
Engine 38, for incoming instruction. Engine 38, which is 49, ladder 49. Engine 38 is on arrival. 30. Bumper line. Which one?
From the time 49 pulled up, it was 1 minute and 11 seconds before we had water on the fire.
Now, who do you got? Inside the door! Inside the window! Let's go.
That's as they go into the house.
Which you can see nothing, by the way. That's incredible.
Right now, you're gonna come here, go in the room. Take it forward!
Got
take
the
it
smoke
away, take it
detectors in the
forward.
back.
Go in. How far you want to go in? Right here is good. All right, I'm gonna stay right here so it's good, okay?
Thank you for taking the time to watch that. Some of the highlights of that was Public Works, Matt Van Loo hooked up the fire hydrant. 3 police officers gave me good information that the lady was out of the house. They also parked out of the way, which is a big plus. From the time we got there till the fire was under control was 23 minutes, and the fire company had 30 volunteers at the fire. So that was just a huge success even though there was a lot of damage to the house. From what you saw, if you went and looked at the house today, with the wind blowing that day, it was just incredible to be able to do that. So I wanted you guys to see it. 200,000 people saw it throughout the country with pretty good comments. So we're happy with it. And lastly, tonight, I just want to bring up a little bit of concern, and maybe you guys could relate it to the parks folks. We've had our members go down to Bondsville Mill Park and walk the trail, which it's great. But we've had 2 incidences where up on the top at the water tower, kids have been up on the top of the water tower taking selfies. If they were to happen to fall there, it's a logistical nightmare for us to make a rescue or get up there to help them. Even our ATV, I don't think is going to be able to get up in there. So I don't know if we have to have the parks people look to make sure it's a little bit secure. I don't know how they're getting in. But
Not either, because, Joe, the bottom of the ladder is cut off.
yeah, we got pictures of them up on the top taking pictures just so we could,
Did you
But-
happen to let the police department know? Because we'll have those,
It just happened yesterday, so, but we will.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
thank you.
But thank you,
very
guys.
much. And also, a big thank you for the supervisors had an opportunity to go down and check out the fire station and the new addition, and as well as I guess we should say both additions, the addition to the building as well as the new.
And you just saw that was the brand-new engine that operated on that fire, and it had 4 hand lines off of it, supply line coming in, a supply line going out, and the ladder truck backed in the driveway of the next house. We had no issues with either one of the trucks. It was just, and you guys got to see the trucks firsthand, which we appreciate. The guys really were thankful that you guys came down and saw the trucks and saw the building.
And I'm really happy to hear about the new volunteers that you have, and would you say 3 in EMT and 4 new in fire training?
Yeah, and two of the folks are females, and the one female said she's only interested in firefighting, and the other girl said she's only interested in rescue and EMS. So,
Fantastic.
It's really good.
Was also last Saturday down the bottom of Dilworth Road. There's a lemonade stand with young children who were selling brownies, cupcakes, and lemonade to everyone for the proceeds to go to their school friends who their home was that home that burnt down or had fire damage on Bolero Drive. So it's pretty neat to see, young children in the community.
Yeah, the whole second floor of that house is pretty much, if the fire got up into the attic, they have a lot of damage there. It's going to be quite some time before they might have to end up tearing that down.
Yeah.
Any idea how it started?
The fire marshals still have it under review. They're leaning towards electrical, but I don't have the final report from them yet.
Electrical in what part of the house? Was it
That front room was an office. From what we understood, the grandmother who was visiting from India was there, and she smelled smoke. And she went out the back door and opened the back door to see whose neighbor was burning, and left the back door open, which caused those whole front windows to break out and come out that front door and cause that draft. And then that day was the windiest day of the year so far out there. So it didn't help that house sat right on top of the hill.
Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any old business this evening, so I think we're going to move on to new business. And this will be, the first one will go to Luke for the discussion of the 2019 policies and procedures, permits, and park rules.
The Parks and Recreation Committee took a minute from their planning of events for the 2019 summer season to form a subcommittee to explore updating the rules and procedures that appear attached as Exhibit A to Chapter 182, which is our park rules. They are suggesting some changes. The changes appear in red, and they in the packet before you. And they primarily have to do with adding new facilities and adding new types of users of those facilities, a means to control access to the fields when maintenance is a concern, the condition of the fields is a concern, and new, for example, we didn't have pricing on reservation of the tennis courts. So there's a number of changes that are proposed. Chapter 182 says that the park rules may be amended by ordinance. And so the material is in front of you for your review. And at tonight's meeting or at a future meeting, I would entertain a motion to put this into ordinance form and advertise it. But in the meantime, I expect no action this evening. It's the first time you've seen this. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have Dave Summers, a member of Parks and Rec, in the audience. I don't know if he's here for this subject, but he might be a useful asset should you have questions about the proposed changes.
The only thing I noticed was for under type 5, groups of 10 or more would be required to have a permit. And I know there's a lot of times for AM and PM kindergarten, the parents pick up their children and go across to the park to have a play date, and that would constitute a permit for... I can't hear you. If if, say, AM kindergarten, the parents come pick their children up, a lot of times they go across the street to the park to have like a play date. Most times it's more than 10 people, more than 10 children. So would they be required to get a permit?
Mr. Summers, real quick, I apologize. Would you mind, just because on video it looks very funny, just hearing a voice from the audience?
No, that wouldn't be considered an organized event. That's
Okay.
what we're proposing is more organized events.
I was seeing, okay.
We've had some use that is loosely knit league play, I would say, that's happening without authorization.
Like people meeting up to play football or?
Ultimate Frisbee and the like, yes. Yeah.
Is the document that has 182 attachment 1, is that intended to replace the document that's park rules and regulations?
Correct. So the amendments shown in red are over the top of the existing Exhibit 182, Exhibit 1 of 182.
My question is, this page, which is right before that, what's the?
No, that is a summary. Within the minutes, I'm sorry, within the Chapter 182, it says that these rules are to be posted at the entrances and throughout the park. So that is the model language that summarizes the rules contained in Exhibit 1.
Okay.
I regret not better summarizing the packet. Also in your packet are suggested revisions to our application forms, which is not part of the ordinance, but reflects the changes in Exhibit 1.
Okay, yeah, I think if we have some time to go through this over the next week or two, maybe we can do this in the morning session, maybe?
Okay, well, my suggestion would be to put it on the agenda under old business, and the deliverable that is to put it in ordinance form and to advertise it.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And then we're going to go to Scott now for the East Brandywine Township Municipal Authority appointment recommendation.
Thank you. Unfortunately, oh my God, just drew a blank. Don Growey, who's been a member of the municipal authority for 3 years, Dave, has decided to move closer to family. So he is leaving us. I believe his last meeting will be the municipal authority's work session next Friday. We have a person from Applecross, Tom McClung, who has expressed his interest. He has a background in that he was on the Wallace Township Municipal Authority for several years. Jan Benarchik spoke very highly of him. And one of the key things is that being retired will allow me the time to do the work of the EBTMA. The municipal authority is recommending the board approve his appointment to take the remainder of Mr. Growey's term, which I think is 2 more years. But I think he would be, I've had the opportunity to talk to Tom and some of his experiences with Wallace, and was very impressed with his knowledge of their system. And he's already interested in taking a tour of our Applecross and Keats Glen plants, so he can get up to speed for that. So I would respectfully request the board consider the appointment of Thomas McClung as a member of the municipal authority, taking the place of Don Growey, effective in May.
Do I have a motion?
I have a question. Has he met with the board?
Yes. Well, go ahead, Dave. Put on the other hat.
The board has met him. He was at our last, not this past month, the month before,
February.
at our meeting. Like Scott said, he came very highly recommended. He is a retired engineer, and he has a lot of experience from Wallace Township, so I think he'd be a great asset to the board.
And he's a numbers guy too, so he could be an asset to help you too.
Yeah,
Is this recommended by your board?
yes, it was.
Okay, because that just wasn't clear from what Scott
Yeah.
indicated. I'll make a motion, we appoint Thomas McClung to the balance of Mr. Grayley's term on the municipal authority.
Second?
Now, I'm going to abstain only because I have a work relationship with him, so, and only for that reason. I think he's a fantastic individual, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And there is one other item. Oh, okay, the Planning Commission appointment recommendation. In your packets, there's a note under old new business from Bruce Rawlings that he advised the membership that Jonathan Wright would be taking leave of absence from July 1st through December 31st of 2019 because he and his wife are expecting again. Given this, Mr. Rawlings made a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that Associate Member Jim Grasillo be appointed to the position of temporary full member during Mr. Member Wright's absence, and that was approved or passed by the members 7-0.
Yeah, I was going to say, you
I don't
can't do
think there is
that.
such a thing.
Temporary,
Yeah.
full-time, he's either appointed or he isn't.
Appointed or you're not.
So John Wright either has to resign and we appoint a replacement, or,
Yeah, I mean, if Mr. Wright's not gonna be able to come for a while, I would just have the alternate sit in, or the, I don't know how many members you have, but if this gentleman can just,
Well, they want him to be able to vote because there are times when, and Mary will
Mr.
tell you
Wright has to
this,
resign,
that they
because
struggle to
you can't do
have.
it as temporary, there's no such thing in the municipality's planning code.
Okay.
All right, so we'll let them figure out how they want to handle that on their end.
Okay, you have 2 months.
Yep. Okay, and then we're going to move on to, we already did our ordinance resolution, well, we didn't, we had our hearings, but we have no ordinance resolutions, do we?
Nothing further.
All right, and then we're going to move on to public comment on the agenda items for this evening. Seeing none, we're going to move to, I did want to announce that for the notices, the board did meet in executive session after the last morning session of April 4th, 2019, to discuss legal and personnel issues. And then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
I second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.